Welcome to Julie Whitney Scott Presents Let's Talk Theater, a Mind for God production sponsored event, heard only on WGRN LP 94.1, the Green Renaissance Station. Let's talk theater. Welcome to Let's Talk Theater. And we today are going to be talking to somebody that, number one, is one of my good friends, theater and outside. And number two, is also a member of the Theatre Roundtable of Central Ohio. And number three, he's the president of the Theatre Roundtable too. So we've got a lot of stuff going on, not to mention the fact that he is also the founder and artistic director of JB3 Entertainment. A lot going on here with Mr. James Blackmon. Hi, James.
Hi, Julie. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing well. Let's just say that.
Right. I am well.
Yes, I am well. Are you well?
I am well.
You look well.
Especially
in these times, that's the best thing that we can be.
Absolutely.
Is be well and safe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have so much to talk about.
We do.
But today, and by the way, my audience, there'll be another interview with Mr. James, and that will be talking about him.
That'll be a boring interview.
And who he is, and his life, his theater, and his theater company. But today, James and I, who are both members, as I said, of the Central Ohio Theatre Roundtable, me under Mind for God Productions, and James, as I said, under JB3 Entertainment. We are so happy to announce and bring public to everybody in the theater world, and especially our high school seniors and parents and guardians of high school seniors who are thinking about being in the theater and need a little bit of extra, what is that, James? Money.
That's right.
Money. They need a little extra money. And,
absolutely.
But before we get into how they can actually get the applications and things for this fellowship grant, that's $1,000. I don't know about you, but James, for me, $1,000 right about now to help me do something.
It really could. And, especially if you've got kids who are seniors who are graduating in May and who are going off to school, that $1,000 it's $1,000 you didn't have. It's $1,000, and it's $1,000 you're going to need. I mean, it's not the greatest sum of money. However, it's $1,000 that, as a lot of students have said, I can really use that money. And I did an interview. I don't know if you saw it, Julie, on NBC4 about a month ago.
Yes,
and
I
Lydia
did.
Noel, who was in Annie back when we did that with State of the Art, she talked about how when she got to New York to go to school, she didn't realize how much money she was going to have to spend on headshots and dance clothes and dance shoes and this and that and the other, and that all bus fare, subway fare, that accumulates. I mean, it really does.
So let's talk about, because there might be a lot of people out there that don't know anything about the Theatre Roundtable. And you being the president and everything, I think that we should just start off introducing people to the Theatre Roundtable. And what is it? And how did it start?
Well, the Theatre Roundtable is actually celebrating 35 years, I believe it is, this year. It was first started back in 1986 by Dr. Firman Bo Brown, for those of us in theater who knew Bo. I knew Bo back in Ohio State when I was going to graduate school in the 90s. But he started the Theatre Roundtable with, in fact, I want to read it because I want to make sure that I get it exactly correctly. It was back on September 17th in 1986. And there were 25 people or theater companies who were involved. And the mission statement back in 1986, when it was first organized, was that the Theatre Roundtable is committed to the belief that the knowledge of and participation in the theater arts is central, to human existence. And it goes on to say the roundtable shall act as a lobbyist, promote cooperation among local theaters, encourage the development of theater and education, foster theatrical diversity, work to expand the general theater-going population, and endorse the development of professional standards. What a great mission for a theater company back in the mid-'80s. What a great idea to put a consortium of theaters together, a collective, if you will, to work toward achieving those goals. And I'm very proud to be in a long line of presidents who tried to, as best as we can, continue what Bo started, especially since I know Bo. I knew Bo when he was alive. I knew who Bo was. And so it's great to be a part of the circle, if you will.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And it's not only that, it's great that there is a legacy from him that he started that's still here 35 years uh, and still in the making. How many theater companies do we have now in the round table? We have approximately what?
Approximately 25 or so. I don't know the exact number. We had some who just come in. So it's like we're always getting some, Ellie, maybe one a year, two a year or so. And I have the exact number of what I think we just at the end of the year or at some point got a new addition. So I'm not sure, but we are around 25-ish, something like that.
James, if somebody wanted to be a member of the Theatre Roundtable, first off, it has 35 years, and I'm sure that there are a lot of theater companies that were there from the very beginning that are still there.
There are.
And are part of that. Can you name just a few of those theater companies that were sort of, I would consider in the very beginning, the founding, theater companies that, as far as the first ones that were there and that are still to this day participating in the Theatre Roundtable?
Absolutely. As I am looking to see, according to this list, I'm seeing so many that aren't here anymore, and that's that's kind of sad, actually. Seeing some companies, especially some that I had been with at one point. But Gallery was one of the original members, and Catco was another one of the original members, and where did it go? Ohio State was another one, and Bo was at Ohio State. That's not a big surprise. Ohio State was one of the original members. I don't want to say any more that I'm not absolutely sure, but those were three. But I just wanted to say, because some of us will remember these companies that are not here anymore, Players Theater was an original member. I know, Players Theater, and Columbus Junior Theater was a member back in the day. And here's another one from a while back. When was the last time you heard the name Center Stage Theater? So I know, there's a lot of really great companies who were there. And then some like Gallery, who are still to this day very active and very strong and helping us lead the way. I mean, we need that. People who were there in the beginning, and then people who've just joined in the last few years, and people who've joined throughout 35 years and who've become a part of the legacy of it as well. I like the circle again. I like that, like adding to and continuing on.
Theater, I think, and I believe in the mission statement, it was talking about how important it is in society. Period. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So it's one of those things that I think is important to our cultural values.
More essential than we thought, or more essential than you think. We talk about I'm sure you heard of the Day Without Theater, the Imagine a Day Without Theater, Imagine a Day Without the Arts. And if people really stop and think about what would happen if we lost the arts, people don't have to stop and think. People are suffering right now. I know we still have television, so we still have an access to some things. But people in cities like New York and Chicago, not just the actors, but the communities they're suffering. Even here, I hear from audience members who miss us. They miss going to the theater on the weekend. I mean, here in Columbus, we're so blessed that we have so many companies who are active from educational to community to professional. You can go see theater every day of the weekend, every weekend of the year. There's something to go and see. And in some cases, almost every day in some venues, depending on what it is. And everybody doesn't have that, but we are so fortunate to have that. And our audiences miss it. They miss Opera Columbus. They miss the symphony. They miss the theaters of the Roundtable and all the ones who are not a part. They miss high school theater. As a high school theater director, I know that our audiences even miss coming to see the kids on stage doing high school theater. It's very, very, very essential to you know, we've been doing theater since humans began. So I think it's a part of us to perform and tell stories and for others of us to sit back and listen. Very essential.
James, talk to us a little bit about the theater roundtables and what they do to encourage the community, what they do to encourage our theater members, and what special things are part of the theater roundtable, especially if you're a member.
Well, I will talk about our big things that we do, and then I'll talk about the I hate to say the important, I don't want to say more important things, but I'll use my experience. So when I joined the Theater Roundtable, it wasn't with my company at the time. I was artistic director in State of the Art Productions. And when I came into the Theater Roundtable, I immediately found it to be useful. One of our biggest tools is the auditions that we have once a year. It's a big citywide cattle call audition. I'll call it a cattle call audition, where we see actors from ages 6 or 7 up to 60 or 70. And we spend this Saturday, as you know, we spend Saturday all day watching everybody so that we may cast our shows. And we see a lot of great people. And I have cast some really talented people based on this audition that have gone on to win. The other thing that we do as a reward for our actors and technicians that participate in the shows, we do an award show as well every year to acknowledge the great work that we do. And it's good. I mean, I am partial because I live here in Columbus and I see the theater and the president roundtable, but we do some good work here. I mean, I would rival it with stuff that I have seen all across the country. There's some really good stuff here, and it's great to see. I was telling someone I sit at the piano because I provide the music during the award show, and I watch people's faces as they walk up to receive their honor. And some of the shows I've seen, I'm like, yeah, that was really, really good. So those are two of the big things that we do. In addition to that, what I have gained the most out of however, as a person coming into it, was the connections, the fostering of community. I have met some of the best people, and I have begun to work with and form partnerships with some of the best companies. And you find other people who do it kind of the way that you do it, and find people who think about theater the way that you think about it. And then you start working with them and you start collaborating. And it's great to collaborate as a theater art, as an artist. I think it's great to collaborate, especially as a collaborative art format like theater. It's great to collaborate with other companies. And I have made relationships and friendships. And my company, now that I am on my own, and we're part of the roundtable as well, JB3 Entertainment has made relationships and friendships with other companies that without the roundtable, it wouldn't have happened. If I had just been a company trying to do all of this on my own, I wouldn't be where I am at all. So I owe a lot to the Theater Roundtable.
Yes, I agree with you. I've only been Mind for God Production has been a member, I think maybe 3 years, 3 or 4. You
Okay.
know, the older we get, it's kind of hard to remember. But I know 2 for sure. 3, possibly 4.
I don't know either. I
Listen,
have no idea. That's so funny you said that.
I don't know. I'd have to go look it up. But I will say this. I agree with everything you said, in regards to that. One thing about theater is a fellowship. It is a type of family, and they can be long distance family or right in your neighborhood family. It's that type of of companionship that I think we get from that. And I also see the Theater Roundtable as a networking, as a means for us to come together and to share ideas and different things. And and I think this is important, and you can elaborate on this, especially as president of the Theater Roundtable. I think it's so important that we have this means of bringing diversity in theater to Central, especially Central Ohio, because that's where we are. So, but what would now that COVID has caused us to add this extra element to theater of virtual, um, reaching out now to people that we normally wouldn't even have in our physical audience because they didn't live here. And who's coming all the way? People rarely travel to see a theater play unless somebody's in it that or it's something really big coming to town,
A show you've
from
heard of,
Broadway.
Hamilton.
Hey, we'll go over there for that. But for the theater, the community theaters, and even the small professional theaters, the few that we have here, the Theater Roundtable is a way to do that. What do you see as president? And you've been president twice, correct?
This is my third year.
Oh my gosh, third year. So it's like, what have you seen, James, as in the past, and where do you see Theater Roundtable? What is our goal? Where should we be in? How do I want to say, and even should we be uh, in the forefront or right out there with making sure that diverse voices are heard by all theater companies, and how do we go about making sure that we do that?
I would say, as far as it's in our mission statement, to foster diversity in the arts, and I think in some ways that is easy to do, and then in some ways that's hard to do, because exactly what does that mean? And an organization like the Theater Roundtable, what does that mean for us in how we implement that? I think one of the tenets of our mission statement to foster theatrical diversity is very important, especially now, especially since we've all lived through 2020. I mean, things changed in 2020 for the entire country, and the way that we even see, or the way that we define the word diversity, I think is even beginning to change. I think for some people's diversity wasn't really all that diverse, but now diversity is really expanding, and it is growing. And the reckoning, if you will, that 2020 was with regards to a lot of things, not just racial, but I think it's woken some people up. Even woke people woke up a little bit and realized what it's really all about. And I think that also applies to theater. I think the roundtable, the fact that Bo Brown, all the way back in 1986, knew that fostering theatrical diversity is important, um, is really telling. And I think the attempt to do that over the years is very bold, and it's difficult in some respects. But the other thing about it, as I have been the president, you come in wanting to do certain things, and then there are other things that you have to deal with as well. And then you have to say, what is the most pressing thing for us to deal with at this time? And some things don't get the attention that you want to give it, and then the year is over. And then you have to start over. In fact, I was president, and then I wasn't, and then I was for the last 2 years. So there was 1 year that I was just the immediate past president. But you have to put out the bigger fires as they grow. And I don't mean that in the way that something is like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. It's just that in any organization, you have things that you just have to deal with. And some things present themselves like, oh my gosh, we have to really deal with this. And Then something else, I got to really deal with this. And then something happens like, we have time to deal with this, as it like with the fellowship. And so I think in some ways it's happening. The fact that we've had in the last 40 years a Black president for three of them is very telling. Um, in another way, the fact that we had a Black vice president is also very telling. I think, and I also have to say, as far as diversity is concerned, that's why I said we have to really stop and I think we have thought about what diversity really means. The fact that we have a conservative theater organization in this big organization is also very telling of what diversity means in the theater, and that voices, we have LGBTQ focused theaters, we have original script based theaters, we have more traditional based theaters, we have theaters that do only musicals, we have theaters that concentrate on plays, some that do classics, some that do the moderns, and everything else in between. And out of we have African American based theaters, we have theaters that do a little bit of all of that, like me. A lot of voices are being heard. Is there room for more of that? Absolutely. And I think, 2020 is a blessing in disguise. There's nothing great about COVID. And anyone who knows anyone who's gone through it, either lost someone or suffered and is still recovering from it, or has lost a business, or all of those sorts of things. It's hard to find the blessings in that. But I think in a much, much bigger sense, in a historical sense, we've learned a lot from 2020, and we've learned a lot from not being able to we had to stop and take stock in, the thing, with 2020, everybody had to stop. God made us put the brakes on. We had to stop, and we've had to think, and we've had to really, what is important, and how do we go about making these things that have occurred in this last year, how do we make that better? And I think the voices are going to rise as a result, as we get back together and start creating theater again. Those voices are going to rise to the top because it's become important. It's the fire that needs to be put out now, if you will.
Very good point. Even the fact that Mind for God is a production company.
Yes.
That's part, of the whole picture of the Theatre Roundtable. Because a
Absolutely.
lot of people get put off. They thought, oh God, that's all religion, but personally, that's not what it is. So it's one of those, just giving everybody a voice.
Can I just say very quickly to add to what you just said about it not being necessarily about religion. Back when I was at Ohio State, a very, very dear friend of mine who's on the faculty at the University of Florida, Mike L. Pinckney, Black director and educator, said to me in a play he was directing that theater is ministry. And I never thought about theater as ministry until then. I mean, I, as you know, grew up as a church musician, even went to seminary at one point trying to figure out, do I want an MDiv? What exactly am I supposed to be doing? And then when I heard Michael say, theater is literally is ministry, my world changed, and I never thought about the flow through from God. I mean, how theater how theater does tell the stories that we've been telling for years. And sometimes you can put those stories in religious context, or you can put them in a practical real world context. And it's kind of all the same. And as an artist, I've always found theater as my vessel. Theater is ministry. It's a way to say what it is that I need to say, whether that is scripturally based right out of the Bible, or it's an interpretation of what that means in a practical real world sense. So I like that God is in the title, and I know what you mean. It might turn some people off, but it's ministry. It's all the same. We're all doing it. Whether we call it that or not, that is what we're doing, just different terms for different people.
What you just said leads me right into this. The fellowship grant, and the reason why it came about, and talk to us about And because when you were saying like there's all kind of facets of the theater, okay? Talk to us now about this fellowship grant and what are we looking for out there? Is it, oh, you must just be a dancer, you must be in the acting, you must
You
be able to
must.
be Shakespearean? Talk to us about that, because that is one of the newest ventures that the Theatre Roundtable, and I'm proud to be a member of the Theatre Roundtable, and especially to had been a part of the committee that helped just think about how can we do this. So tell the audience out there, James, about our fellowship grant and what that's about and how they can get it.
I would love to. I am the son of teachers. So education has always been extremely important in my family and in my life. And as a teacher myself, I love fostering this thing that I love in the kids. And I love watching them grow. And I love watching them get on stage and do stuff they didn't do yesterday, but they're doing it today. And they get all excited. And I love it. So the Theatre Roundtable's fellowship began as an idea by one of our former presidents, Mr. Tom Cardinal of Shadowbox Live. We realized, when I said sometimes we have a chance to breathe, it seems like all of our, there's no smoldering things. We can actually take a moment and look at what we want to do next. We realized that we had accumulated a little bit of money, and we were like, well, so what are we going to do with this? And it occurred to him, why don't we start a fellowship? One of our things that we do in our mission is to continue with theater and education, to develop theater and education. So why not start a fellowship? And it was really that simple. We were in a meeting, and those of us who wanted to be on the committee were like, yeah, I actually would love to be on the committee. We got together, and we really got serious about it. Last year, of course, we weren't expecting COVID-19 to get involved. And we really had to do the entire developing of the fellowship through Zoom meetings. But thank goodness we have this, because we wanted to get this launched. It was very important to do this by the end of this 2021 school year. So this is what it is. It's $1,000 cash money to a graduating high school senior at the end of the 2021 school year, who's studying theater, or who plans, I should say, to pursue theater as a life passion, I would say. Most of us at that age, we think we're going to go into professional theater and do whatever, but our passion is what drives the fact that I've been wanting to do this since I was 11 years old. It's not exactly how I thought it was going to turn out. I never certainly thought that I'd be in Columbus, Ohio, where my theater company would be, and the president of a theater group like the Roundtable. But if I look back, well, why not? I mean, that's kind of the journey. That's kind of how things go, right? So it's for a kid who loves theater and is going to pursue theater. You don't have to go to be on your way to school. We made it was a very big point, very important to us to acknowledge the fact that in our business, a lot of people go to New York, LA, Chicago, start pounding the pavement. Next thing you know, you're on a sitcom or you're on a Broadway show. That's just how this business works. And then some of us, like me, I went to college and then to graduate school and went through that route. So however you're going to go, we have money available to help you achieve your goals. All you have to do is go to our website, theater-roundtable.org, and that's theatre-roundtable.org, and fill out the application. It asks you just basic questions about yourself, your name, your age, where you go to school, that sorts of things when you graduate. And then you have to answer 5 short answer questions that are about when you started in theater and why do you do theater and where do you see yourself down the road and things like that. And then make sure you get that in by March the 1st, midnight, March the 1st. That's very important because we have to put a cutoff and we can't take it at 12:01. So make sure you get those. I'm taking the site down at midnight. So make sure you get your application into us by midnight. And then we will review those. And then those who are passed on to the finals round we'll have a live in-person interview, either in person, or in person through Zoom. We're going to actually talk about that on Sunday because we're not sure we can do this live, but that's what we'd like to do. But a live in-person interview where you'll get to, we're calling it show off your supporting materials. That's if you're an actor, you can do a monologue. If you're a dancer, you can do a routine. If you are a technician, you can talk to us about how you see lights or how you see costuming, or whatever it is in theater that wherever you think you're going in theater. That's what your final interview is. Oh, and then you'll just talk to us, of course. In the interview, we may ask you some questions. They won't be hard. We're not trying to trip you up, but we just want to hear you talk about you and theater, and that's it. And then that selection, very difficult selection. It's going to be hard. Will be made, and then one recipient will receive $1,000 to go off into the world and do your thing. And I want to say, for me as the president of the Roundtable, it's a thank you to our young people in the Central Ohio theater community. We have great kids in our theater community, and any of us who directed them or worked with them in any way know we have a talented bunch of kids here. And to say thank you, let us, the Roundtable, help right now one of you. Maybe next year can be two, but we would like to help one of you at least, push the little birdie out of the nest with the parachute and say good luck. You know what I mean? Good luck.
With the parachute and a little bit of cash.
A little bit of cash. Thank you, and good luck.
To help you on your way.
Because it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, but we appreciate you, young people of Central Ohio Theater. We love you. And so we hope one of you does well in this tough business.
All right. Well, James, I want to thank you so much for being on Let's Talk Theater.
Oh, thank you.
But before we go, one more time, tell them what's the website so that they can, and guess what, guys? Not just for the application, so you can see what's going on with
Absolutely.
the Theatre Roundtable. You make sure you save this in your browser, okay? Theatre Roundtable website, so that you can keep up, because we have so many theater companies that are doing great things, and we're going to start making sure that our youth get an opportunity to do some great things with a little bit of help and support from the theater communities where they live in Central Ohio. So James, what is that website again?
It is theater-roundtable.org. That's theatre-roundtable.org. And Julie, you raised a great point, not just for the fellowship. You can go on, look at the theater companies that exist, click on all of them, and then you'll be directed to our websites, and you can just learn more about all of the companies. And especially if you're going to stay here and go to school at Columbus State, a great theater school, by the way, great school. Or Ohio State or Otterbein, if you're going to stay local and go to school. Look at all the companies that exist, and audition for this once it all gets back to normal. Audition for the shows and come out. We love to have you. There are roles available for all ages throughout all of our companies, for all kinds of actors. So by all means, check out the website. Once again, that is theater-roundtable.org, THEATRE, very important, -roundtable.org.
But thank you again for being on Let's Talk Theater, Mr. James Blackmon. And of course, as I said, we'll be back with JB3 Entertainment. Talk about that and talk about you. And thank you so much for all the years that you put in as president of the Theatre Roundtable. And I'll see you at the next Roundtable meeting
On Sunday. Bye. Bye. Thank you, Julie. Appreciate this.